everybody. Welcome to True Mental Health Live.
Hello.
Yeah, again.
We used to do this. Now we're trying to remember how to do it.
Oh my God. So for those of you guys on Facebook and YouTube, we're also live on Instagram. So just forgive
Mhm.
the eye contact. But
Yeah.
yeah, so
What are we talking about? Because how many times did we get a million comments on your Facebook about entities and mental health?
yeah.
And so we did an episode on it that came out yesterday.
So if you guys didn't check out the episode on entities and mental health, it's out. You can find True Mental Health on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube. Um, so I would go listen to that.
Hmm.
We got a lot of interest. There was a lot of interest. There was actually a lot of ask on it from the people that follow me and the access consciousness stuff about this, and so it's a pretty big conversation. And we're going to be doing our first ever live call on it. You guys can actually come to the
Tomorrow.
tomorrow because why give you any notice when you could just
Mhm.
be last minute?
Let's go.
Yeah. So we wanted to invite you to that, and I guess it's like, okay, Janine.
Where do we start this conversation? Why
Again,
are entities even involved in mental health? What the heck is an entity? Nobody knows. Wait, let's just start there. What is
yeah,
an entity?
yeah. Well, essentially, an entity is a disembodied being. And you can have, there's all kinds of entities, right? Like a song is an entity, a plant is an entity, a book is an entity. There's different kinds of entities. But I mean, for the
Mm-hmm.
sake of our, conversations, it's a disembodied being. And so the reason it's so important is because so much of what shows up in our life, in our body, are the symptoms of entity awareness.
Yeah.
And we just don't talk about it. Like it's,
Yeah. We're gaining another great conversation. I'm like, what's this conversation? Comment on Instagram. So glad you're talking about this. I realized that a lot of my suicidal ideations was actually from an entity attached to an ex I was dating. And that is like a lot of what we were talking about around the intrusive thoughts or just starting to calibrate to a vibration that just doesn't seem like you is
yeah.
what I'm getting.
Well, because it isn't.
Yeah. Because the reality is it's not,
No.
but you've decided it is.
Yeah, well, and so much of I mean, there's so many different things you can hear yourself say. Like, I feel like that person becomes another person when they, are angry. Or, like, it's like they're not there. Or, it's like. So we hear ourselves say these things where we say, I feel like, or it's like. But what if that were actually true? What if the unseen world is actually way more a part of our world than we've allowed it to be? And what
Yeah.
if the symptoms we're experiencing are the expression of our ability with that world that we haven't really explored yet?
Well, and this is the big conversation, right? When we've all been taught one thing, that mental health is one thing, it's chemical imbalance in the brain, which actually now there's been a lot of research that is debunking that is not actually true, that it could be a plethora of other things.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I really love this because it's like including what you are aware of, which we just don't include. It's not an empowering conversation. It's usually disempowering. And here you're stuck and you have this disorder, and here's a pill, and the end. And it's like there are no real options for folks usually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, what I love about the entity tools from Access Consciousness specifically is that they start to empower you as an aware being instead of as a being that has a diagnosis. Like, you actually, what if your diagnosis, and I think we can have so many different conversations about this, but what if your diagnosis is a symptom of ability instead of a symptom of disability? Um, I just found it so fascinating when I was reading about the big book of diagnoses. I forget where it
DSM.
was. DSM, yeah, and how it got started. Hi, Femke. And how you guys joining on Instagram. I found it so fascinating that that book was actually invented by the pharmaceutical companies because they needed a compendium to go, well, you have this, then take that. You have this, then take that. And so that's not, you know, that's as much of a gift as you want it to be in terms of like, okay, cool, there's pills to like suppress
Mm-hmm.
or change the effects of. but does it actually give you access to the power that is, to the ability that is, right? It just kind
Yeah.
of typically shuts it down or changes it into something else. And so for me, this conversation was such a lifesaver. My God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Another comment. The pill gives the entity a key to your home, so to speak, in my belief. I was like, I love that, right?
Yeah,
Because it is suppressing your
yeah.
awareness, right? It's like dimming everything that you're tuning into. And I mean, I often saw folks when they were really medicated, it just seemed like they were half there or just
Well, it's
not as
fake.
aware. Right. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's like dimming everything.
Yeah. So, is that the way you want to live? I know for me, like, I've taken very few drugs in my life, but there was a period of time where we had some we had some drugs in the house. That sounds I don't know. Like, I think we were experiencing, like, Andres, anyway, this is random. I don't even know how to talk about this. But so he had ordered some random stuff to try to alter weight. And I took
Mm,
one day, and I honestly don't know what was in it. And it was a pharmaceutical. And I
mm-hmm,
have never felt so out of this world before in my life. And I actually,
mm.
right after, it lasted for about 12 hours. And then I threw them out because I was like, these are so altering. It was supposed to like suppress your appetite and like make you
Oof,
want to eat
gosh.
less, but what
Yeah.
it did instead was like literally took me out of being conscious.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, these are going in the garbage. And that was like my one experience, but I was like, oh my God, wow. Like,
Yeah.
I get why now a key to freedom is like no drugs of any kind, which is,
Mm-hmm.
that's probably a whole conversation. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
the suppression of your innate ability with awareness is the key to freedom.
Well, yeah,
No,
and
I
that
mean,
here,
wait, not the suppression, the unsuppressed.
I think I was following. I know where you're at. I know you're there. Well, okay, and here's the thing. I mean, what makes this maybe initially jarring or freeing, depending on where you're at,
Yeah,
is if you've been told your whole life, or we've functioned for so long in this one particular model, then it's like, well, wait, this can be true. How is this true? How is this possible? Even though it seems so much lighter and freer, like, really, I could be aware of possibilities or entities, or that is a possibility versus I'm just broken, I'm just messed up, I
yeah,
need to, right? And so I get there's like it takes almost the mind a second to let go of the old belief, because if we're still holding on to that to being true and real, it's we're not open to other possibilities.
yeah. Well, what I've discovered, and you guys have to discover this for yourself, is that the things that have been the most freeing have been the weirdest.
Hmm. I love that.
And the stuff that I just would never
Yeah.
have considered. And,
Yeah.
I mean, so much of access consciousness, for example, is like super weird. It's like super weird.
Hmm.
Shouldn't work. Like the clearing statement itself shouldn't work, but it works. And so what I've started to kind of get is like, I think it's the weird stuff that's true, and the other stuff
If it's weird, yep, we're
yeah,
good.
yeah, I'm going to consider it because like it's so weird. I want to reject it, which means it's
Hmm.
probably true.
Hmm.
Um, like, I mean, I spent so much of my life, and I've told the story before of, re reperpetrating the
Mm.
story of being a survivor on myself, which in the
Yeah.
beginning felt like this really empowering thing, but didn't turn out to be that empowering because I kept creating myself as a survivor. And it wasn't really until somebody asked me, like, well, are you a survivor or are you stronger than dirt, sort of thing? Like, is it
Hmm.
true that you're this and you have to keep creating yourself as this, or is something else true about you? Like, is what's really true?
Yeah.
And that what's really true thing got me looking at things really different. Like, okay, well, the thing that I thought it was isn't creating the freedom. It's not creating the happiness. It's not creating the ease. This other thing that's really strange is like really easy. It's really strange. If I admit that I see ghosts, am I strange? Yes. But you already are because you do perceive them, but you're not acknowledging it. So you're already
Hmm.
weird. It's too late. But I don't want to know that. But it's true. And if you would let yourself know it, it might be easier.
Yeah, well, I also get that like people are more receptive, more open to the weirdness, I think, because it's kind of like you just get tired of what's not working. If
God,
it's not working, then what else is possible? I hear it all the time, especially from my chronic ill folks, where it's like, I've tried everything possible, so I am open to anything because like
yeah,
all the traditional stuff hasn't worked. So
yeah,
I'm willing to just see what else I could choose.
yeah. So we just want to like invite you guys to a live conversation about this. It's our first one ever. It's only
Mm,
$10. It's tomorrow, so it's super last minute. If you're watching this in the future, check both our shops. I'm sure it'll be
probably
there.
a replay. Yeah.
But if you're not and you're here now, you're more than welcome to come. We are going to facilitate it together. We don't even know how it's going to actually show up, but we're just aware that there's a big ask and a need for the conversation in the world. And if this resonates with you and you need some, you want to ask your questions or you want a place to come and ask your questions, then
Hmm.
we're offering it. So the link will be in the stories. If you're on Instagram, it's above my head. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, it's in the description. Um, yeah, like what else
Hmm.
is possible? What else is possible for us acknowledging our entity awareness? And if you like this conversation, I do very specific access consciousness classes on this that you can choose after. I'm going to be in the States actually doing an intro on it in San Diego. I'm traveling around the world giving these classes. So there's more. There's more. And, Janine, you've got your
All
nervous
sorts of
system
stuff all the
sanctuary.
time. All sorts of stuff. Yeah, nervous system sanctuary too. Recalibrate your nervous system, reprogram the mind. Basically, for me, it's like kind of what radio station are you tuning to? What frequencies are you tuning to?
Yeah.
That's what we're working on in there. And my out create your diagnosis masterclass, we didn't talk about entities specifically, but we were talking about just creating something different than what you've been taught or come to conclusion. And so if you're feeling stuck with where you're at, I would definitely invite you to these possibilities.
Yeah, so come join us live tomorrow for our first ever live call on entities and mental health. And if not, listen to the episode, and if not, both, whatever. Anyway,
Yeah.
and we will see you guys back online next week, and there will be another amazing episode on burnout.
So good. So
So
good.
we'll see you
All
later.
right. Thanks,
Okay,
everyone.
bye.
Bye.